You are not lazy, you just don't understand the science behind it. Let me explain. All your life, you may have thought that you lacked motivation or discipline, and you probably do, but you don't have to do ice baths or watch endless hours of motivational videos to get them. You see, the lazy state in which you may be right now was caused a long time ago, and the first thing that may have started it is your sleep schedule. Calm down, I'm not just gonna tell you to sleep more. Instead, I will say that you should adapt your sleep schedule to your natural chronotype. What this fancy statement basically means is that according to your age and genetic code, you have a certain period of the day in which you function at your peak performance, or in other words, you are less likely to fall into a lazy state. For example, it was revealed that on average, teens perform better if they wake up later in the day, but you have a unique chronotype. So you want to sleep in the period you perform at your worst. Have you heard of the expression early bird versus night owl? If you didn't, I'll give you an example. If you know that you function very well working or studying late in the night, it is stupid for you to wake up at 5 a.m. only to be tired and feel lazy for most of the day. And of course, if you are a person who is very productive in the morning, it's not very efficient to do your important task later in the day. Now, if you noticed I said late in the night or early in the morning, I didn't talk about noon or the afternoon, but why? Because it's a pretty bad period to do your tasks. I know this seems kinda dumb since most people do their tasks exactly in those time periods.
Fire, gang.
But for many of us, these are the periods in which we are more socially active. And somehow this attracts laziness, and I'll explain why. In his book, Cal Newport, a pretty smart dude who studied at MIT, talks about an interesting thing called attention residue. I know it sounds like something I just made up, but it is not. Let's say you work on your computer and then probably it's just your friend sending you a meme, you laugh, you put down your phone, and then you go back to your task. Doesn't seem like a big deal, right? But you just fucked up your work capacity. Because even though you got back to work, a big part of your subconsciousness is still thinking about that meme, and since that meme triggered your dopamine receptors without too much effort, you will automatically lose the motivation to obtain the same chemical response by finishing your work. So, in simple words, you'll become lazier. And during the mid part of the day, there are hundreds of distractions like this one. Usually late in the night or early in the morning, there are not many people awake to disturb you. Of course, you can isolate yourself more during the midday in order to not get distracted, but you have to be careful because if you isolate yourself too much, that can actually worsen your laziness. You still need those distractions in your life. As human beings, we are social individuals. We are the most social individuals. From all the other species on the planet, we have the best brain development for understanding other people's emotions and communicating with them. These social interactions release certain chemicals in your brain that offer you a better state of mind and more energy overall. So choose a period to work without distractions, and then choose a period in which you can allow yourself those distractions. But even if you follow this advice and try to do your tasks at your peak performance period, there's a big chance you may still feel lazy. Why? Because of your diet. And I'm not just going to tell you to eat healthier. I'm actually here to tell you that an unhealthy, sweet treat can actually prevent you from entering a lazy state. I know it seems too good to be true, but trust me, it is true. Usually you feel lazy because of your brain state. Many times this lazy state is just a way for your body and brain to tell you that you have low blood sugar. Now, before you rush to the kitchen and eat 10 candy bars in the hope of becoming the most motivated man alive, you have to understand that those biological things that are happening in your body are not that straightforward. To maintain your blood sugar at a healthy range, you can't just randomly eat a bunch of sugar because your body will just transform it into fat in order to depositate it more efficiently. This is actually a good thing since the other alternative to ingesting that much sugar will be death. As a fun fact, that's why it's said that chocolate kills dogs. Chocolate is not poisonous, but it has a lot of sugar, and they can't transform it into fat as well as we can. But returning to you, how can you trick your body into giving you more energy? Well, instead of eating too much sugar at once and having most of it turn into fat, you can have multiple snacks throughout the day, let's say after every 2 hours of work. By doing that, you make sure the sugar you eat is used for energy and not turned into unwanted fat. That will help you especially if you need energy for mentally challenging tasks, since your brain neurons are bigger fans of sugar than you are. But these pieces of information alone are not the answer, they're only a part of it. Next up, we have to tap into the psychological part of the problem, which is even more important than the biological part that we already discussed. You may have already heard that discipline is like a muscle that grows with practice. This is true, but the problem is not that you don't train this muscle enough. The problem is that you are actually overtraining it without even knowing. And that makes you even more likely to fall into a lazy state. To be disciplined often means that you choose to do things that are better for you in the long run, despite what you do in the present moment. To make those decisions, you'll need something called willpower. And that's where things become interesting because according to some studies, willpower is not something you would just either have or don't have, it's more like a resource. And as with many other resources, it eventually drains off, and when it does, you fall into laziness. Every day of your life, you make hundreds of choices that will drain your willpower. You go to work or school even though you want to stay home, you pretend to like your boss or teacher even though you can't stand them, yet these things affect your willpower only at a medium level because you know that you don't really have a choice. But let's say that you are home and you have to decide either to watch a movie or to do a hard task. Even if somehow you make the right choice, this would drain a substantial quantity of willpower from you. Because that was a hard choice, in which you could have chosen the easy alternative. And unfortunately, in this case, after a few decisions like that, you'll become completely drained of willpower and you'll enter a lazy state. So by now it seems like you have to choose which tasks you have to sacrifice in order to not overwork yourself and avoid becoming lazy. Well, no. You can minimize the willpower that is drained from you by reducing the number of hard choices you have to make. Instead of letting yourself actively make the decision of what you do in the present moment, plan your decisions earlier. For example, if you already plan to work out in the morning a day before you do that, you may still need some willpower to go to the gym, but the decision has already been made, so you will have some willpower and have even enough to go through the day and escape laziness for a while. Then the laziness will eventually be back. And you know what? It's actually alright. After all, this is a normal state. You get tired, you get bored, and you feel lazy. But what really matters is how you adapt to the situation. Because what most of us tend to do is that we are productive for a while, then we take a break or a day off, and we feel bad about it. Those negative feelings affect our mental state, and a bad mental state is scientifically proven to reduce your willpower and make you lazier. So, in conclusion, to avoid being lazy, you have to adapt your sleep to your chronotype, eat more sugar, avoid wasting your willpower, and be less harsh on yourself. These things will give you more energy, which you will need to click that subscribe button. See ya!